Welcome, everybody. Another episode of Shoot the Five. Myself, the host, Xavier Porter, co-host Pat DeMoss. As you can see, we're having fun already on the line. We're having so much fun already. And we have a special guest on the line today. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce Miss Cary Williams. Hello, Cary.
Hello. Hi. How you guys doing?
We are good.
We're hanging in there. Yeah, we're hanging in there. We're trying not to.
Long day.
We're trying not to
overtalk.
Okay,
we're going.
I hear you.
We're very happy to have you. We're very happy to have you on today. There's a lot of things that we wanted to, kind of discuss with you because you're doing a lot of amazing things in the community, and outside of that, you have a great background within not only the field of boxing, the sport of boxing, but also fitness. So we wanted to kind of pick your brain about some things, and also kind of get everybody out there who may not know who you are to kind of share exactly your story and who you are. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Let's see. My story is pretty long, so I'm going to make it really short. But I came. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I came into the boxing world about 20 years ago in Sacramento, California. And when I was graduated from college, I actually have an environmental science degree, which I don't ever use. I'm sure that's real common. But so I had a friend that was a boxer at the time. And I remember him always talking about going to the boxing gym, and the coaches would never allow the average person to come in off the street to learn how to box. It was either you were a fighter or you just didn't come into the gym. And when I graduated from college, I started working for the government in a cubicle, and it just was not my thing. And I thought, I really want to do something. I want to create my own business, and I wasn't sure quite what I wanted to do. But I wanted to do something that hadn't been done yet. So I thought, you know what? I could open a gym. I know nothing about fitness. I know nothing about boxing or business, but I want to open a gym where everybody can come in and learn how to box, and they won't get turned away. So I thought, well, I'll write a business plan. I bought a book. This was before the internet, of course. So I bought a book called Business Plan for Dummies. Some of you could have heard of that before. And I wrote a business plan, and I went to the bank, and I got a loan, which the banker called a feel-good loan because he just felt really good about my energy and my project. And he's like, I feel really good about you paying us back, so I'm going to give you some money. And then it just kind of went from there. And I had a head trainer that was, obviously had experience in boxing because I didn't have any. And I ran the business side. And did really well the first year open. That 20 years ago, I think I pulled in $100K the first year. And for me, coming from very humble beginnings, it was really a lot of money. And so we got real busy, and I needed to help the trainer on the floor. And so I became an assistant coach, and then I became a coach, and then I became a hypocrite. How can I teach somebody how to box if I had never boxed before? And so I decided I wanted to be a fighter, and so I started to train to get in the ring, and then I became a fighter. So that's a super backward story to how I got into boxing. Usually you're a fighter, you're a coach, and then you open a gym, but I did it the other way around.
Wow, okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah. That is definitely a different side of things. You went from the other side, the business side. You went from the business side to get inside the ring, where most people just come straight to the gym and go walk right in the ring. So that's very interesting. That is very interesting. Pat, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of backwards, I guess, on some things that, typically, like she said, a lot of trainers or coaches typically were in the sport for quite some time and amass their knowledge that way. Was that really difficult for you to kind of like just know that there's like real no experience? So it's kind of, it's hard to explain, I guess, what I'm asking.
No, I know. Oh, I totally know what you're saying. Because at first no one takes you seriously because they're like, well, who are you? You don't have any experience in this sport. And, of course, and being a woman, I mean, that, especially 20 years ago, it was like, I mean, I was basically just the secretary or the front desk girl in everybody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really felt it was important that I got the experience in the ring. I do think that for every sport, I think that if you're coaching a sport for somebody to be competing underneath you, you should have competed in that sport. Now, if you're teaching it for fitness, that's a whole other ballgame. But if you're actually somebody that's standing on the ring apron and someone's in there fighting, then you need to have known what that felt like. So yeah, I definitely felt that was important, and that's why. That's part of the reason why I did it. But the other part is because I love the sport, and it was a pretty amazing challenge. I'm kind of I guess now I'm a little bit of a go-getter, and so I just thought this is like my next challenge in life, is to step into the boxing ring. And I'll tell you, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. I've got a degree from college. I opened a business with no experience, no money, as far as from, friends, family, or investors. Got a very small business loan, and but boxing in the ring is right up there, with all of those big challenges.
And you touched on before that you found it, especially 20 years ago, more difficult because you're a woman, for people to take you serious as a trainer. Do you still find that the case today, or?
Yeah, unfortunately I do. It's a little bit better, but the saddest part is that there are even women who don't feel that a female boxing coach knows as much as a male boxing coach. And it's, I don't know how. I think that's why there are fewer female boxing coaches. You have more female fighters now, but there's kind of a handful of female boxing coaches. But it is a challenge. I train men and women both, but, a man has to really be secure with himself to be trained by me. I just to be real honest, if you have a guy who's got a chip on his shoulder or a huge ego that feels like, only a man can teach him, then that man is not really a man. So, I've got some pretty strong-minded men that come and train with me.
Is that how you were able to transition and work from an Olympic standpoint and also be like a spokesman for Everlast?
Well, let's see. So as I started getting more into training, and then I was fighting, and then I started kind of going up the ranks of my coaching, I decided I wanted to go as far as I possibly could with the time that I had. So that's when I started to get my level 2, my level 3 coaching, and then the pinnacle was the level 4, where you go to the Olympic Training Center, and first you have to do an elite coaches clinic, and then you have to go for the testing. And so I spent quite a bit of time at the training center, first and foremost, to get the coaching experience, and then, of course, for all the testing that's involved. And it's not easy, of course. So I was able to achieve that, but then the next step was, actually coaching at the Olympics. And when I was coaching competitively, as far as competitive athletes, there hadn't been women weren't even boxing in the Olympics yet, and you didn't have any female coaches that were even, nobody was thinking about them even going to the Olympics as far as coaching. So as the years went by, and then I started to get a little more out of the competitive coaching, a lot of different things happened. I moved and so on. Then you had the Olympics for women, and I was coaching at the time a young girl who was going to the Olympic qualifiers for the first ever Olympics for women. And we went to all these qualifiers, and it was just her and I, which was great. Obviously we walk in, and she's getting up on the ring, and I'm standing down there in the corner. And every single time I would have at least 2 or 3 coaches come up to me and say, "Hey, do you guys need help? Do you need help? Do you need help?" And, that's nice and all, but I obviously took it a little bit more like that they thought I needed the help rather than they were being helpful. Even when I was wrapping her hands, they kept watching, like, oh, does she really know how to wrap her hands, the competitive way? You know what I mean? Like, oh, is she really going to be able to hold the mitts for her? So it was a really interesting 6 months of traveling around the United States, and it's, one of the fondest memories I have because, it was just her and I, and we were out there and we were doing it, and, lots of people would look at us sideways, but, that's just a part of it. But, yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. But, yeah, now we have females fighting in the Olympics, and it's amazing, but I'm not really coaching any competitive athletes right now, so I didn't get the chance to actually go to the Olympics and be a coach at the Olympics. Although my certification allows me to do that and I could have been selected, there's still a selection process. And to be selected for it on top of that is a whole nother hurdle.
Okay. Well, you have so many other things that you're busy doing or busy accomplishing, and so I assume that takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Coaching, especially athletes, it takes pretty much all of your time, and you do it mostly for free. So my father once told me that I've done enough charity work for a lifetime, and so that's really kind of stuck with me. And there was a point in my life. He says, you really need to start thinking about yourself at some point. You got to think about what's going to happen in the future, and it's like, yeah, okay, and it's still very challenging. I mean, I give a lot still, but you kind of have to refocus and go, okay, well, where am I going to make that mark at, and how am I going to make a living? Everybody needs to make a living, so you transition in whichever way you can to come to a happy medium. So I started a brand called Too Pretty, which comes from my boxing experience, where people would say, "Oh, you're too pretty to be a fighter," or "Oh, you're going to get you're going to get punched in the face," and just stupidness. So after I got done fighting, I just created these little shirts, and then the other thing I would be told when I stepped out of the ring after sparring, whatever, there would be guys that would be watching sparring. They'd say, "Oh man, like you fight like a guy, like you box like a boy," or whatever. And I took it as a compliment, no doubt. So I just came up with these clever shirts that said "Never too pretty to hit like a boy," and the girls loved them at the clubs. I had 3 clubs in Northern California. I ended up growing a chain of boxing clubs up there. But yeah, I just thought, well, there's got to be other girls and women out in this world that aren't boxers. Maybe they're business owners, maybe they're doctors, maybe they're race car drivers, maybe they're pilots, and maybe they're hearing the same bullshit that I've heard. So I just felt like,
definitely.
Yeah, I just felt like it was kind of time to go, okay, well, let's kind of smash the gender box that everybody's putting us in, and just spread the word and make, all these girls growing up understand that if they want to box or they want to be a pilot or whatever, that no one should ever tell them, well, you're a girl and you shouldn't do that. So that's, kind of my other give back right now.
Nice.
So I'm curious, at this, this stage in your professional career, do you find yourself just still innovating ideas just every day on how you can grow your brands and possibly make new ones?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of, I have a new project. My boyfriend Damien is a IFBB pro bodybuilder, so he competes in classic physique. And he started helping me with my weight training because I have a lot of old boxing injuries. And he said, if you start lifting weights, it's going to help a lot. And as a boxer back then, we didn't really lift a lot of weights. And so anyway, I trained with him for about a year and a half, like 6 days a week we trained together. And he showed me everything that I needed to know about weight training. And it transformed my body, but it really helped my injuries. Like, I don't really feel them as much as I used to, and so I incorporated a lot of weight training with my boxing. And I have a club here in Santa Monica called The Stables, so I'm training people here, not competitively, but people who actually still want to learn the sport, that respect the sport and want to learn it, but they don't necessarily want to get hit. But I thought, well, it works for me, and I love it, so I'm going to see if my clients like it, and everybody just dug it. So we decided to create a program called Boxing and Barbells, and we literally are just launching it this weekend at a trade show in Long Beach. So that's the new big project. Yeah, so we'll have, we've got a certification program, the works, like it's accredited by like 4 different personal training entities in the nation and in Canada and so on. So that's my next big project.
All right.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So we also heard that you're also on Shark Tank. Do you mind to tell us exactly what you were on there for and how that experience was?
Well, I wasn't on Shark Tank, but I was on a show called $1 Billion Buyer, which is on CNBC, and I was on there for the Too Pretty brand, and basically the guy who's the host of the show, his name's Tillman Fertitta, and he owns the Houston Rockets now, I believe. But he's a billionaire in Texas, and he doesn't invest in your company. He basically he can do a big purchase of your product to kind of give you a turnaround. And so it was on there for the brand, and they ended up doing a purchase for the brand. This was just last year. So that was great. And as far as Shark Tank, we're definitely applying for Shark Tank in January for the next season for the Boxing and Barbells program. So I am about 99% sure you guys are going to see us on there.
Wow, well, that'd be great, especially to help grow the brand.
What's that?
I said, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's a large platform to grow any type of brand, so.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. You know, you have to visualize something happening, and I see it in my mind on the daily. So, yeah, it'll definitely happen.
Now, your business mind and your passion, is that something that you developed early in life, or is that something like you said, okay, I just have a drive to do this and accomplish this and accomplish that?
I think I was probably born with this kind of drive because, I don't think that you can be taught drive, or you kind of learn it. I think you innately kind of have it, and then someone can hone those, hone your drive or hone skills that you may have, or maybe give you some skills you don't have. But as far as having that, it's like your personality, right? So gotcha. I think I was more so born with it, but I think that I was raised by my father, by the way, but I think that he definitely helped direct me to know right from wrong. All of those things that I guess unfortunately doesn't get taught as much anymore. But there's consequences. That's another thing. You can make decisions, but these are the consequences. Now you make the choice. So I'm really fortunate the way he raised me, and I'll thank him for the rest of my life. But yeah, I definitely think I was born with drive. And I mean, I would be 8 years old and I'd be out there picking mistletoe out of the tree and then bundling it up and selling it door to door during the holidays, So that I'm always been a hustler, so I guess it's just the way I am. I don't know.
Well, today is National Daughters Day, so hats off to your father. They're yours.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know it was that. And, of course, he wouldn't know. He's not on social media.
Okay.
Oh, my God. He won't even text. I mean, come on.
He wouldn't even check. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you also founded the Knocking Out Obesity Tour?
Yeah. So the story behind that was I'm trying to remember what year it was, 2007 or 2008. I was in Men's Fitness magazine, and I was on the cover of Muscle Fitness, hers. And it just so happened that I sent a press release to the magazines, and the editor at the time had just started boxing at Gleason's. And so he was he was a boxing fan, and he saw my press release, and he was like, oh, my gosh, this woman does boxing, and she's done this, she's done that. And then he called me. So the editor of these Men's Fitness, Muscle Fitness Hers, and Muscle Fitness called me and was like, hey, I want to put you in 2 of the magazines. I was like, what? So I got to be in the magazine, plus he called me the next day and wanted to put me on the cover of one, and I was in the shower. I'll still not ever forget that moment when he called. But I went out to New York a few times, and so we had talked, and he said, I really want to do this program called Knocking Out Obesity. And his name's Neil Bolton, and he was the guy who you would always see on, like, Good Morning America, and they would do the Men's Fitness 25 Fattest Cities list. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. But anyway, he did that list every year, and he said, I really want to do a program for kids, and I want you to spearhead the boxing part of it, and we're going to travel, and we're going to work with kids. And I was like, yeah, right on. Awesome. So a few months later, some things happened with him, and he basically left the magazines. And so, he had some personal things going on, and I thought, you know what, I don't want this whole thing to die, so I'm just going to do Knocking Out Obesity. It's just going to be boxing-based, so I won't do any other, sports. It'll just be boxing. And so it took me a whole year to set it up, and I basically got 10 different schools in 10 different cities, middle schools, to allow me to come in and work with their students for the day. So basically every PE class, I was in there teaching them boxing. And if it was a big school, I'd fly in one of my coaches from Sacramento to help me. Basically, I traveled across country and back to New York and back in about 27 days, working with about 8,000 students. So it was a big endeavor, and it was super rewarding. It was, something I'll never forget.
Okay. I think Pat had a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. This maybe didn't pat into your backstory, but what kind of gives you your motivation for just every day? Is it just because, like you said, you're kind of, you had this hustler attitude ever since you were born, or was there anything that at your core just kind of drives you every day?
Well, what drive is one thing, but staying motivated, I think, is another. And my mom passed away when I was 14. And she actually left when I was 2, so my father raised me, but I still saw her on the weekends and whatnot. But she was 33 when she died, and she maybe had one job in her life and was an alcoholic and, lots of different things. And I don't know, for some reason it just dawned on me maybe about 10 years ago. And I thought, what was my mom's purpose here? Like, because everybody has a purpose. And I told myself that her purpose was for me to be born. And if that was her purpose, then I better do something with my life. Like, I need to do something. I need to do something to make a change on some level. And quite frankly, that keeps me motivated a lot of times.
All righty.
Yeah, you definitely, given us a lot, and a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners out there can definitely be appreciative and associate with some of the things that you experience, with the passion and your drive and continuously focusing and achieving goals after the passing of your mother. What are some motivational things that you can, kind of pass on to those out there who might be, going through a tough time, a rough patch in life and feeling like, hey, I don't really have much to offer to life. What are some of the things that you could tell them to kind of get their spirit up?
I always say, first of all, don't give a shit what anyone thinks about you. I think that's key. You just really can't. And, the other thing is that you get one life here, just one. It's not, this is your movie. There's no playback. That's not happening. You're playing right through the movie. There's no goddamn rewind. You just, You just have one life to live, and live it. You're the one living your life. You're the star in your own movie, and you live it the way you need to live it. So, yeah, just don't care what anybody thinks, and do what you want to do. I don't know if that's motivating or not, but that's kind of how I live my life.
Motivated me.
Oh, good.
That's right. You said don't give a shit, I don't give a shit.
There you go. See? Oh, man.
Anthony Joshua and Alexander Povetkin was a pretty big fight. I want to say it surprised me, but it showed me a whole lot more of how good Anthony Joshua was, or how good, I should say, Anthony Joshua is, with his TKO victory in the seventh round of a tough game Alexander Povetkin. Did you get a chance to catch the fight?
No, I was not able to watch it live, but I was able to watch it back shortly after, a couple hours after the fight. I thought it was a really good fight. Again, like you said, I thought it really kind of showcased Joshua because, he does have a lot of skepticism around him. So I think a win like that over an opponent like that was really kind of what he needed to take that next step in his career.
It definitely sets up a lot of things for him going forward. With the upcoming pending with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, that will definitely hopefully set up the winner to face Anthony Joshua on April 13th in Wembley, because he's already stated he has that date locked in place, and whoever comes out there, he wants Deontay Wilder. He said it last night. He's finally been open to finally say and commit to saying that he wants to fight Deontay Wilder next. I think fighting a fighter with Povetkin and Povetkin style, I think that definitely, and everybody else before him has prepared him for this final unification match, heavyweight fight with Deontay Wilder or even Tyson Fury. Because depending on the winner of that fight, it's still two different styles that he has to prepare for. Because Wilder is not a come forward type of guy. He's more of a knockout artist. Sits back, relaxes on his jab, lines people up with the 1-2, boom, gets you out of there. But he is so athletic and so long that he can punch from all different angles. My thing with Wilder is I'm a little nervous of if Joshua is able to get on the inside of Wilder's reach, and if he can land one of those strong shots, because they're both strong men. They're both powerful men. They're both strong men. Joshua seems to be more of the compact type of strength of a fighter, whereas Wilder's more of a long-rangey type of fighter, like a Thomas Hearns type of fighter. And then when you look at Tyson Fury, he's just a big, tall guy who just likes to out-muscle and push you around. So I'm excited about this upcoming bout with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I'm even more excited about the press tour, because I'm intrigued as to whether or not Anthony Joshua actually show up to the press tour when they announce it in London, because London is going to be the first stop of the press tour. So I can't wait to see that. And if he does show up, it's going to be chaos and bedlam or whatever else the words you want to use. And they was out there watching them fight still, no matter what. So that goes to tell you, this guy Joshua is worldwide, more popularized than both of these fighters right now. But does popularity wins fights? That's the question. What's your take?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I believe, even though Wilder, is definitely a worthy test, Fury's a worthy test, I think Wilder gets it done. That's not putting this on Fury or whatever, but I think the next logical fight that will happen will be Wilder and Joshua. And I do believe he shows up at the press conference in London. It'd be kind of silly not to, That's a good PR move for everybody. So I definitely think you'll see Joshua there. But, it's a weird fight, like you said. Like, the paths to victory are so different for either guy, right? Joshua definitely has to get on the inside of Wilder's reach, which is a task much easier said than done. And Wilder, on the other hand, has to stay on the outside and keep the power away from Joshua to be able to close the distance on him. To be honest, I don't really know how the fight would go. I was going to ask you that. Like, how do you think this fight, if it happens between Wilder and Joshua, would play out? Like, who do you see getting there first?
That's a good question. I think both of them have. It's their styles that are so contrasting that it's really hard to pick them. I do want to see how Wilder is going to do against Tyson Fury, because then I'll get a pretty better assessment of how he'll be able to defeat Anthony Joshua, because Tyson Fury he's a bigger opponent. It's somebody that Wilder has never faced. That Wilder has never faced an opponent that was bigger and taller and longer than him. And in saying that, Fury defeated Klitschko by just out hustling him, out muscling him, laying on him, pushing him around. Wasn't really hitting him with anything with power, but he was hitting him with enough punches that was sustainable to keep him off of him. So I want to see how Wilder will hold up against that type of a fight against Fury. Now, if he's able to get past that, I think that just adds on. I think that adds on to preparation for him to be able to defeat a Joshua. I do believe that if he's able to get past Fury, in a tough fight, he will be able to beat Joshua. If he's able to get past Fury in an easy fight, he might have difficulty fighting Joshua. Because if you defeat Fury in an easy fight, in my opinion, you really didn't learn anything. If you go in there and knock him out in 1-2 fashion, you didn't really learn anything. You didn't learn any adversity. Even though boxing is loved by all for the one-hitter quitter, you always can't knock out an opponent when you fight somebody. So you got to always prepare in the back. You always got to prepare your body for 12 rounds. So if he goes in there and knocks out Fury in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, then I got to see, okay, well, is he going to be able to do that with Joshua? Is he going to be able to land that one-hitter quitter? Because Joshua could take a punch and get back up. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good mix of styles with all three men, and I'm just anticipating. I'm excited. I can't wait. We'll see what happens in the next couple of months. Like I said, their fight. Wilder said he signed a contract, so they scheduled a fight hopefully in December. I don't know if Fury signed his half of the contract, but I know Wilder signed his. And then the winner of that, we'll see them in April in Wembley Stadium, fighting the champion right now. Because they're both champions, but it seems to me Anthony Joshua is the champion of the world.
Ooh, bold statement there. But I'd have to agree with you as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I love about boxing, to be honest. It differs from MMA, is that you look at a champion in the UFC, and we're just like, okay, well, that's the best middleweight in the world. That's the best welterweight in the world. It doesn't really compare to Bellator. Bellator's the only time I could see this happening is like, oh, who really is the best welterweight is if Roy McDonald wins the middleweight belt. If he gets 2 belts in Bellator, it's like, okay, this guy's seriously talented, which we all know he is. But, again, like I said, for the majority, you just take that comparison and start thinking, well, the UFC champion is the better champion. In boxing, it's not always so easy to differentiate who really is the best in their weight class. Just because of the talent spectrum, there's so many different organizations. It really is unique to boxing, and I think that's what helps it stand out again from other sports. Just because you really don't know who's best until they finally unify. But that path to unification, for example, Wilder and Joshua, that was a pain in the neck to get to where we're at now. And now we're not even sure that fight will happen because, if Wilder gets caught, whatever happens, if he loses that fight against Fury, then, well, it may be a while before we see the Joshua Wilder fight.
But, last night's fight definitely showed, Joshua's skills and showed him at the level that he's at and the fact that he can even go even further in his career. And I've been thinking about the popularity of the sport of boxing and how the United States fighters are giving support. And I see that they don't get the same amount of support that fighters in Europe and England and things like that get support. This man Joshua fought again, not one time, but again in Wembley Stadium. That's over 80,000 fans. We don't get that out here. We get guys fighting in arenas, gyms and things like that, venues. But this guy fights in 80,000 plus arenas, and they come out. Rain, sleet, or snow, they come out.
Yeah, is anything going on this weekend next in boxing? Any events, anything of that?
Yeah, we got a nice pretty card coming up on the 29th. Actually, nice pretty card on the 29th in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, we have this trifecta, what I like to call it. The Bella. Actually, it's two fight cards coming in on this week. On Tuesday, Facebook Fight Night Live, they have another exciting fight card with promoted by King's Promotions. Marshall Kaufman and King's Promotions taking place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's got a nice couple of good fighters in the card featuring Kenny Robles and Mayweather Promotions, becoming fighter out of Staten Island, New York. Heavyweight fighter Mike Coffey. He's training sparring partner with Deontay Wilder. Spent a few rounds with him. Always spends rounds with him. Pretty good main event. Action-packed card. I should say action-packed main event. Between Victor Vasquez, I believe. So I just got to figure out who's the other opponent in that card. But either way, it's still going to be rock and sock and get it in, do your thing, because, when Facebook Fight Night Live put on fights, they put on some really, really exciting fights that bring out the fans. Action-packed all the time. It's probably going to be about 6 or 7 cards, 6 or 7 fights in the card. So, and it can be shown, like I said, live on Facebook for free. It's a great platform to showcase fights. It's a great platform for other promoters to take part in. Mark Fratto, Lineker Media doing a great job. They've partnered up with Everlast, one of the most famous boxing clubs ever used in the world, continuously still used to this day in boxing. Most notably, Deontay Wilder's favorite glove to use. So that's a great thing. And then on Saturday, the trifecta, the Bella Entertainment, Xavier Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing and Entertainment, and Uprising Promotions. They have a fight card taking place in Brooklyn, New York. You got 3 New York City promoters putting together a fight card that's featuring nothing but up-and-coming talent from the New York City area. Everybody in New York City is going to be there. Hands down, everybody's going to be at the King's Theater on Flatbush on Saturday. Expect a good fight card on that day.
All right, well, it sounds like we got a jam-packed weekend here for boxing. I also do want to give a quick shout-out to our good friends, Shelly and Heather. They are grinding, as I noticed on social media, for their fight coming up here shortly. Yes, they are putting in that work for that rematch, and it is sure to be an entertaining one. Just had to throw that out there. Saw that this morning when I woke up. I was like, maybe I should.
Yeah, they're still grinding. They're still grinding, and HBO still ain't putting them on the network. It's crazy.
Yeah, that it really is insanity. Yeah.
Did you catch the Conor and the Khabib press conference?
Press conference, yes. X, you read my mind. Oh man, still having my morning coffee, everyone. So, but yes, I did catch the press conference. Let me tell you something. Conor McGregor is just so brilliant in his trash talk, and there's a couple things I want to point out. I think to the public eye, he seemed crazy, which he was a little bit. This is the most I've ever seen him off the wall in a press conference. Didn't know if he was drunk, high, or what, but I don't think he's any of those things. I think he was just really fired up. Maybe surely to God he wouldn't be drunk 2 weeks out before a fight. I don't think, but he was absolutely insane. And to be honest, I mean, Khabib can say whatever, but he got crushed in that press conference. It was terrible. I mean, there's just little things that I noticed Conor say. I don't think a lot of people caught towards Khabib. Coming at
I caught the shitting on the best part.
yeah, he made that one pretty clear to Khabib. Yeah, he shot his pants on the bus, but there was a lot of good moments in that press conference. But like I said, he came at Khabib in a lot of different angles, talking about how his gym smuggled money. What really, I don't think people caught, which it took me to hear Conor say a couple times, is this. Khabib is, I believe, Muslim. And he obviously does not practice Christianity. But during the press conference, Conor McGregor kept thanking his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and just screaming Jesus Christ at the top of his lungs, pretty much. And the second time he said it, I was like, okay, he's saying that to get right at Khabib. And that's insane, to be honest. When you think about it, that's good trash talk. That is just like that's coming right at his heart. And he came at his father. I mean, there was no holds bar for Conor during this press conference. And a lot of people say Conor was being too emotional, but to be honest, I think he was just fine. And I think Khabib, to be honest, in his eyes, you could just tell he's really, really frustrated and kind of at a loss. Because Conor really never let off the break. We see during his press conferences, he'll have witty remarks and such, and then he'll have his little rants here and there. But, I mean, he literally, from start to finish, was at 100%. And even came out his manager, Ali. When he said, "Where's Noah?" he was talking about his manager's son, who he left, and is $50,000 in debt of child support, I believe, something like that. So, needless to say, Conor McGregor does his research before a press conference and knows he could fire off on anyone on Khabib's team. It was interesting. Well, what did you make of it?
I thought it was pretty. I'm glad that you picked that out too. Those points right there with the religion piece, because that is something that a lot of people probably didn't really think, because that also plays in your mind in a sense. What I did see was Conor doing what Conor does and trying to get up under his skin, trying to kind of unravel him. Khabib seemed to be playing it a little bit cool because he kept saying, "Hey man, you talking this, you talking that, but we still going to fight on October 6th. He's like, so whatever you saying right now don't matter because we still going to fight October 6th. And Conor's like, you damn right we're going to fight October 6th. He's like, I want to fight right now. He's like, I want to fight right now. Forget October 6th. We still going to fight October 6th anyway. And I just found it so funny. And then when he tried to offer him the whiskey, he was like, I don't drink. He was like, what's wrong with you? What you mean? I said, Conor is hilarious. He comes up there with the bottle. He pours himself a glass. He pours Dana White a glass. He pours Khabib a glass. He's like, I'm a drink. He said, what you mean you don't drink? What's wrong with you? This is good. He's like, I forgot the name of the whiskey, but it's a cool nickname too. You know the name of it? Because I forgot the name of it. I need to Google it, but it's hilarious. Proper 12. That is a cool. You can't tell me that's not a cool name for it.
That is a slick name.
And the way he promotes it, and the way he says it, the Proper 12, and the way he talks and everything, and I was like, he is really having a good old time with this. And when he pulled up in a race. Gets out, sharply dressed, nice suit, very tailored, like Conor does. Conor's a smooth, stylish guy. He is the notorious. But when he get on that stage, he's a whole other person. He's a whole other person. And I can see why they had police on the stage when they had to do the face-off. So I just felt like the press conference was pretty cool. It was pretty funny. I was happy to see Conor really back being who Conor is, because with that incident, him throwing the wheelbarrow and everything, or whatever you want to call it, at the bus, and then he said, "Yeah, you was in the bus, you shitted on yourself in the bus." And Khabib was like, why you had to come with all those people? Because I slept your man. He's like, I slept your boy. I sent the message to you. I slept him. And I was like, oh, so you knocked out his boy to tell him you're going to knock him out too. Okay, let's see what this is. So I can't wait. October 6th, it was cold. It's gonna be a hell of a fight. It's gonna be a hell of a fight. You know what's funny though? I met a guy yesterday, Daniel. I met a guy by the name of Daniel Pruder, former MMA fighter, 8-0 professionally. Also American kickboxer who won the WWE Tough Enough competition. And when I met him yesterday, we talked briefly about, we talked about the upcoming Conor McGregor fight and Khabib fight. And he said, hands down, Conor McGregor's going to win. And I was like, really? Well, tell me why. He said the reason why. He said right now at this stage, the way Conor McGregor is, he said he's back. He wants it so much. He wants it so bad. I said, but Khabib is undefeated. He ain't never lose to anybody. He said it's not about him being undefeated. It's about the type of fights and the fighters he's faced. And he said he's never faced anyone like a Conor McGregor. And I said, okay.
And that's a great point. That is a great point. Khabib really hasn't fought anyone of Conor's caliber in terms of striking. Edson Barboza was a close one. I think people sleep on that fight. Edson Barboza is a sick striker, but it's a good fight. Conor's much more of a boxer than Edson is, and to be honest, you gotta have this sense that Conor McGregor's boxing is going to be off the charts when he gets back. I mean, he spent how long just specifically training the sport of boxing?
Yeah, I would say about over 2 years.
I mean that fight lingered on for a while in terms of promotion, so definitely interesting. I also want to point out real quick on that press conference, I don't think a lot of people realize this either. The suit, immediately I thought of the Joker, reminiscing of that, from Batman and everything. And then the entire time when Khabib would talk, you could hear like a faint laugh. Conor really wouldn't hold the mic up, but he would just kind of giggle at him. So I don't know if that was meant on purpose or not, or if that's just a coincidence. But again, McGregor's an interesting fella. So I don't know, but that fight does take place October 6th, right? I believe so. October 5th or 6th. And that's coming up. We will preview that here at the end of the show. But really quick, we do have to recap last night's fights, which I don't know if you got a chance to watch or not, but I did indeed get a chance to watch them last night. Hands down, this was a great card in terms of fights. I just want to run it down here really quick. Let's see the first fight I want to point out here. I guess Francisco Trinaldo is a good way to start. Good place to start. Gets a nice knee right to the rib cage of Evan Dunham, and puts it down. Trinaldo wins via TKO in the second round. Trinaldo is a Brazilian and a veteran of the lightweight division. Also, real quick, do we want to point out in the prelims, Talis Leites got a decision win over Hector Lombard and called it a career, as did Evan Dunham that night. So two retired fighters fought their last fight on that card, which is pretty special, I think. And then, heading off after that, Charles Oliveira got a submission win over Christos Gatos, which gives him the most submission wins in UFC history, and that's a feat right there. To be able to say you have the most submission wins in an organization. Pretty impressive stuff from him. Antonio Little Nog, a lot easier to say. Little Nog got a nice TKO win over Sam Alvey. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. I think a lot of people figured if Little Nog wanted either by submission or decision, but he gets it done on the feet, which was pretty impressive, to be honest. Sam Alvey's a tough guy, so to put him away like that in your home country has to be pretty great feeling. In the welterweight division, Alex Oliveira got a nice, beautiful, quick knockout of Carlos Perdoliasi, I think is how you say his last name. Probably butchered it. But it only took, I think, around 40 seconds to get the fight finished up for Oliveira. Oliveira's one of those guys that's a very talented welterweight, but every time he gets close to the top 10-ish, he kind of loses, falls right back down. But hopefully he can, gain some confidence up here and make a run towards that top 10 in the division. And then the main event was absolutely insane. Thiago Santos taking on Eric Anders. Both guys are former middleweights. I think Santos is here to stay at 205, but I think Anders will go back to 185 after this fight. Anders came in on late notice to replace, I forgot who, can't think of the top of my head right now. Came in to replace Thiago Santos' former opponent. Comes in on just a couple weeks' notice, something like that. Just fought a little over a month ago. Got a nice knockout win. But this fight was crazy. Hands down, it was insane. Both guys were just throwing heavy bombs. Each guy got clipped multiple times. And in the end, it was a wild finish. Eric Anders, former Alabama linebacker, shot in on a double leg takedown. Had Santos against the fence, and then Santos was dropping elbows right on the ear, like several elbows, and then started slipping in uppercuts. The round ended. Ref didn't call it, but Eric Anders could not get back to his feet. He couldn't stand on his own. He was wobbled. He was out. He was out on his feet pretty much. So that gave Santos a nice TKO win in his home country. So overall, great card. A lot of good finishes. If you got a chance to watch that card, I'm sure you were very entertained. There's a lot of finishes, but yeah, not a lot of big names, and a lot of people are kind of worried about that. But again, it was a great card. Did you by chance catch any of these fights, X? Or?
Nah, I was busy.
Yeah.
I was busy because of the Daniel Pruder.
Yeah. I figured. But, let's move past that and talk about something we all could talk about here, and that's UFC 229, which is the next card, October 6th, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. We talked about this fight a lot on this podcast for good reason. This is probably going to be the biggest UFC pay-per-view event in history. But there is a couple fights. You're familiar with Anthony Pettis?
Yeah, Anthony Pettis,
yeah. Yeah, he's taking on Tony Ferguson in the co-main event in the lightweight division. This is interesting because this may set up who the winner of Khabib and Conor takes on. Would you agree?
Okay. Could be.
Yeah, but there is an Nate Diaz fight. That's the thing. It really depends on how this all plays out. Because if Conor wins and Nate Diaz wins, you have to imagine they do the trilogy, right? I mean, there's no way you don't do that. But again, we don't know. A lot of good fights in this card. OSP from Knoxville, Tennessee, takes on Dominic Reyes in the light heavyweight division. That's a good fight. Derek Lewis is on the card, a fan favorite in the heavyweight division. He takes on Alexander Volkov. That is bound to be a very interesting fight. Michelle Watterson is on the card, taking on Felice Herrig. Sergio Pettis is on that card with his brother, Anthony Pettis. Sean O'Malley's on the card. Scott Holtzman is on the card. Gray Maynard and Nick Lentz are fighting. And Ryan LaFleur is also on the card. This is a pretty stacked card from head to toe. I don't think a lot of people did realize that, but this card actually is pretty stacked. There is no two championship fights. However, I think the UFC at this point is like, we really don't need two championship fights to support Conor McGregor. So, but yeah, that really wraps up my MMA recap and preview. Do you have anything left to say, X? Or?
I wanted to ask you about the BJJ stuff.
Okay. So, wait, we still haven't gotten no word. Let me check my source real quick to see if anything else has popped up. But yeah, the Kevin Lee thing is still alive. If it's able to happen here, just 1 second. Yeah, I am not personally seeing any announcements yet.
However, we will keep you up to date if Kevin Lee is indeed. Oh wait, 1 second. We may have a update. Okay, so the Kevin Lee Dylan Davis 100K Jiu-Jitsu match is in works with Bellator. Or no, not with Bellator. It would be with. Okay, no announcement on who would promote the fight, but it will not be televised, so there is that.
Wow.
However, I would assume it would be live streamed on Facebook, Instagram story. This is what I'm seeing here as well. Overall, I think this jiu-jitsu match may happen, and that'd be good scrap there. Dylan Davis is a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner. Not sure too much of Kevin Lee. I just know Kevin Lee's very strong and a great athlete, so that's what I think he would bring to the table with that. But that's what we have right now. It's in the works. I'm sure contracts are being negotiated for this. But it will not be televised officially, so I would assume this would be a live stream.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yes, I think that should be. Well, do you have anything else to say about this week's fights, last week's fights, anything?
I'm just amped. I'm just amped. I'm ready to go. Can't wait to see what's going to take place next. And I'm just going to stay locked in, stay in tune. And I'm going to try to get me a ticket or something to some of these fights. I really also want to know Nate Diaz. You know, I was looking at the Bellator card, the UFC card taking place in New York City, but I don't see him confirmed to appear. So I'm going to have to do my due diligence to check on that a bit more. Because that kind
on UFC 230?
Yeah.
Let me check.
I was sitting there looking at it
real quick.
I didn't see it.
UFC 230, Madison Square Garden?
Yes.
Yes, confirmed Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier as the main event. Co-main event is Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman 2.
Okay, so it is the main event. Gotcha. All right, no problem.
This is a very good card, because I'm going to have to fly down to fly up to New York, and we're going to have to catch this card, because this card is stacked.
Yeah. It's a really good card.
No title fights either. No title fight.
I was like, wow,
absolutely stacked.
And the next Bellator card taking place in Long Island with Sonnen and Peter. What day is that again?
Bellator, I believe that is. Let me check for you really quickly. Bellator schedule here. Bellator 206 is September 29th. That's Musasi McDonald, actually. I didn't know that was coming up. That's in San Jose, Connecticut. Uniondale, New York is 208.
Yeah, the one in Long Island, NYTV.
Long Island. Not seeing one for Long Island. Maybe it just took place?
No, it's coming up. NYCB live. Fade on the Sonnen.
Oh, yeah. That's Bellator 208. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, what day is that?
That is
definitely in October. Gotcha.
October 13th. Yes.
Okay.
That'll be a good card as well.
Yes, sir. Lots
Yeah.
of loaded for that.
All right. Well, I think next week we will probably talk about Bellator a little bit, 206, talk about that. We will also preview officially UFC 229, talk about those fights, break them down, throw some predictions at you, talk about boxing. Hopefully have some confirmation on some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Other than that, that's all I have, X, for today's episode.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, Shooting Fire. Another good episode. Bring y'all some good content. We're going to be back in effect. You're going to catch us soon. We got some people coming up some special guests coming up. We're gonna just tease y'all. We're gonna tease y'all. Okay, we got about 3 women get ready to come on the show within the next few episodes, and the tease is they're all fighters. So just stay tuned. I know, right? Stay tuned, stay locked in. But you're gonna love their stories and what they got to offer and what they're sharing. So stay tuned, stay locked in. Shoot the 5 for myself and Xavier Porter, co-host Pat DeMoss. See y'all soon.